Hey guys! So today you and I are going to talk about practices. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, what practices do you find to be very unnerving or upsetting, scary, whatever, within software development when it comes to code and code management and things of this nature? And yeah, that's pretty much it. So this is a fair question. I don't really have all that many things that keeps me up at night or makes me kind of worried when it comes to software management, but I have a few things that, well, I've never been there I've never really experienced this firsthand, but since I know that it happens, it's unnerving to know that it's probably happening in more than a few places. So something that I think quite a lot of non-developers don't really understand is the range of quality in software that exists. Now, I've said this in previous videos about like my perspective is that quite a lot of people, especially in the Western world today, have an expectation on application development where they pretty much believe that the bar is set at products that are provided by Google, Facebook, etc., etc. When the reality is that these are top of the line products, quite a lot of them, where it's just not feasible for most companies to produce something at this scale. But that's from the perspective of the developers, but if we turn that, what I don't think a lot of people realize is how massively diverse and how much it can differ from software company to software company and from developer to developer when it comes to the quality of the product that they are actually shipping. I mean, software development is in many ways, depending on quite a lot of factors, a bit of a unregulated, well, almost completely unregulated industry. I mean, if you go to a consultancy as a company, you really need to be able to trust that company, because you have no guarantees as to what practices they're going to use, how they're going to build your software, how secure is it going to be. I mean, you're basically taking them at their word. That's what you're doing. That's literally what you are doing. There's almost nothing in terms of security when it comes to buying software from a third party. So, I think I mean, as somebody who writes code and as somebody who actually builds applications, I know for a fact the limitations and the way that people think and how product managers think and how the company's going to prioritize, quite a lot of them at least, when it comes to almost everything that you can think about when it comes in the delivery of software. And I can tell you all of the time, like pretty much without fail, all of the decisions that are going to be made, all these tiny little decisions that make up good software or bad software, are going to be completely dependent on mostly the skills of the developers, the priorities of the company, and whether or not, and the deadline. So I really don't think I mean, it's impossible in a sense as well. We could never teach a non-programmer how to really understand the quality of the product that they are buying, but it's such a deceptive thing. I mean, when you buy normal products, you have in certain areas, at least in certain industries, this is so hard to put into good words, but you have a certain guarantee that things will meet a certain quality standard, especially if there are regulations around it, if it's food or things of this nature. But you don't have that in software. You can, as I said, you can literally go to one company, order a system, and get a complete shit system. It might work, sort of, but you have no guarantees. Absolutely none. And you can go to another company and then have an amazing product. It's not likely that that's going to happen, but this is the way it works, right? And when you're working as a software developer, you really start to question sometimes I mean, you understand the perspective, of course, that you need to make money for the company, and the company needs to cut corners, and they need to do certain things because planning is impossible in software. For some reason, software development almost always takes longer than what people expect it to do, and people don't actually respect code enough to do it in the same fashion as you would have to show this. They don't show code the same sort of respect that you show food or medicine or things of this nature. It is something where you literally have the attitude that it needs to work, but it also needs to work on time. It is understandable. But imagine that that sort of mindset now seeps into companies where they work on something that is actually fairly important, such as communication systems, airplanes, etc., etc. Now, there might be regulations around this, but just that mindset that it's more important to ship on time and get things to just work. And I mean, as I said, this is not just in most companies have this attitude, some with exceptions, of course, but this is mostly the focus because, it's about money. It breeds a very dangerous, it's a very dangerous thing, I think, when things that are, I mean, it's not like every company is making a small little website that could go down every now and then and so forth. It's such a dangerous thing. I mean, maybe this is happening in the medical industry as well, I don't know, but I would like to think that there isn't this idea that it's more important to just get the pills into the hands of people than it is to actually make sure that, not a bunch of people are going to die from it or things of this nature. So when you know that this is happening, maybe I'm biased because you can kind of see it all the time. I see people every single day making decisions every single day that just chips away at the quality, the maintainability, and so forth of software. And for the most, I mean, this is just the way, it's just the way it works. It's just the way of doing business. It's just that it's deeply worrying to me that we've gotten to a point where we're quite a lot of times just trying to find out the cheapest way of producing software almost all the time. And as I said, there's really no regulation for that. So I just think that it's a matter of time before something, and it has happened before. I mean, I know of a few stories where bad software has actually caused quite a lot of harm, and we don't even have to go to the extreme of saying it's going to compromise somebody's life. It's such a complicated field, and we treat it with that little respect in certain cases that, I mean, how many times have we had that discussion that, oh right, a outage or a bug or something like that is costing a company I don't know how much money and having a real impact. These sorts of things, and these are issues that come from this. Well, it's not just because we treat software as this kind of cheap commodity that we try to just churn out. It's also partly because it's very complicated. But this is the sort of thing that definitely makes me a little bit worried that it should be that we show this more respect than we are, and there should be some levels of quality involved and quality checks and so forth, the regulations, if you will. I'm not saying government regulations necessarily, but it's a little bit worrying, as I said, that it's kind of a free-for-all. You have, as I said, no guarantees when you buy software from a developer. You have no guarantees when it comes to practices or what they're doing. There are norms, there are things that are encouraged, but you're basically just trusting the person that you hire to do your coding to do the job well. Because even if they were to make a shit implementation of something, it would be really hard for you to prove that they did a shit implementation, because there are no standards. So what I want you to take away from this is basically that the thing that worries me when it comes to software development and code management and so forth is this constant, the quick win mindset, that we're just basically trying to ship things as quickly as possible without any real way of making sure that the thing that we are shipping is actually going to work. to make an analogy, it's similar to if the car industry didn't have any regulations and literally didn't know if the car was gonna just completely fall apart when you drive it for a certain amount of time, or if the airbags are going to work or anything like that. You don't know. You literally don't know if it's going to work. You just have to trust that it works, because there is nobody who's gonna kind of looking out for you, because I can promise you that there's nobody looking out for anybody who's using software. If the software fails, it's very, very unlikely that there's going to be any impact on the developers or the companies producing that software, and so forth and so forth. And that lack of accountability leads to this cheap, ad hoc, let's just get it working quick type of mindset. And I think that that's a very dangerous habit the software industry has. And I'm just waiting. I mean, we have scandals all the time regarding different things that leak or things that break and so forth. And yeah, that's the thing that worries me. Hopefully I will never be on a plane or something like that where, someone just felt that, oh yeah, today I'm just going to cut a few corners because, shit, I need to get this done by Friday. Have a great day.